And I always say it's better to have your home sold earlier and to have to like move in with the in-laws or get a Airbnb
or a lease back or an RV or something.
That is a much better difficult situation to be in than the situation where your home is ready to close and your old home has not sold yet. You don't have a buyer yet.
You know, I'm going to make a joke about it, but I'm serious. If you're stashing money in a mattress or you're stashing money in a safe, if you have cash holdings that your grandma gave you and you've been holding on to birthday checks for 30 years and you're going to use that for your down payment, please put them in the bank. They have to be able to track the money. Like you don't get to just show up with piles and piles of cash. Well, hey guys, welcome back for another episode of our DFW New Homeowner Podcast. I'm Zach. The better looking person on camera there, that's Megan. She is the counterpart. We're going to have some fun today. We've got a full list of things to talk about. We're going to talk myths of new construction, play a little bit of Mythbusters, maybe get you some good information that you need. But before we do that, I want to give Megan's got a win, and it's kind of a big win. So I want to let her share about that. And I'm going to ask her some questions about it. And so, yeah, Megan, tell us what's going on.
So I officially have my first buyers under contract. Less than 45 days after I got my license and started advertising that I was a realtor. And I am so psyched. They were the best couple, like one of those once in a blue moon type of things. And I'm so glad they were my first, where literally the first builder, the first home, first neighborhood that we looked at, that was the one.
That is a one. And if you're new to us, like if this is your first time watching, a little bit of backstory, Megan is not new in the real estate space. She is just new on the realtor side space. She has been like on the new construction working for builders for 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And then she finally decided, hey, maybe we should sit on this side and do it that way. So she has transitioned to this side working as a real estate agent. We're partnering together on some of those things. And so she has her first clients under contract, which we are so excited for, because a lot of times, if you don't know this, a lot of realtors struggle to get that first contract, especially, it can be hard. So getting that first one and the unicorn of, hey, it's, one community, one home, like that's a win. That's an abnormality for sure.
And I will say I did a lot of research ahead of time, and I narrowed down. I knew before we went out, like, this is what they need. This is what we're looking at. So that definitely helped. The biggest thing that is so exciting about it is that they got a permanent rate buy down to 5.625 from from the builder.
Can we say that louder for people in the back? That she did not. Let me be clear. She didn't say temporary, like 2-1 buy down, 3-2-1 buy down. Builder paid them a permanent, which 30-year fixed under 6% in today's market is phenomenal.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if you're one of those people that are waiting on the sidelines until rates drop, there's options for you now.
Let the builder do it for you. They're still putting. I don't know what that's costing the builder, but that first and foremost, that's not cheap. We recognize that that's not cheap. So they're putting money into that, and they're buying. I think they're buying up there with you, right? In a great community, good builder.
Yeah, up here in Anna. Good. And I will say, so it was a forward commitment, and the sellers did have to put some towards that rate as well. But the builder was offering like 15 grand towards closing costs, so that more than made up for it. Yeah. We'll talk at some point in depth about forward commitments, because we need to have a lender on here to talk that one through, because I understand it, but probably not enough as I should, right? But not enough to maybe explain it to other people as concisely.
No. And sound intelligently. But before we get into some other things, I want to point out something that Megan said. She's like, hey, we spent a lot of time doing some research on the front end. I think that's an important statement, because sometimes people think it's like, oh, we can just show up in a community and it's gonna be great. There's a lot of back end research that I don't think is realized, whether you're not in the new construction space or you're like getting ready to start and looking for a realtor. Like, there's a lot of research that goes into those kinds of things to make sure we get you into the communities that make sense for you, right? Mm-hmm. So this is kind of my plug on the front end of saying, like, hey, if you're gonna go that route, please don't make your realtor be Hansel and Gretel. Like, don't make them follow breadcrumbs. Right now, I understand that, things change as like you see something like, oh, I didn't even know we liked this. I didn't know we wanted this. That's a different, but like the more information you can give on the front end, the easier it gets for us to get you into those communities that fit exactly what you're looking for. Right.
Yep.
And, of course, it's like, work with somebody. We say this all the time. We're a little bit biased. Work with people that are in that space, that know those builders, that know those communities, that can talk you through the quality standpoint of that, and hopefully show you, one or two houses and it be a win. Yeah. That just comes from Megan being really great at like understanding her clients' needs and understanding her area of expertise to get them into the right home. And
what questions to ask.
Yeah.
What questions to ask the buyer to really figure out what their needs and motivations are, and then what questions to ask the builder. Questions. What questions to ask the builder? Because if you're not experienced in new construction, like, you don't know what you don't know. So just having somebody in your corner who understands the important questions to ask and the important things that you need to know before going under contract is a really important thing.
Yeah. And I think that segues well into what we're talking today. So we've done episodes before. We've talked frequently asked questions. And that's kind of a lot of what our podcast is, honestly, is just kind of talking through questions to help you be equipped. So today we're going to do a little bit of like myth busting. So it's a little bit more questions, but it's also like myth busting in terms of like just thinking through the new construction space. Because I think there's a lot of things that people think that they expect or think that they understand. It's like, that's really not the truth. And so I think the first one, we kind of answered it already, but hey, myth is we have to pay like market interest rate, right? Like, and clearly, Megan, we're disproving that every day.
Yep, absolutely. And part of the reason why we're doing this episode in particular is because we want more people to be able to buy homes.
Yeah.
And if any one of these beliefs are holding you back because you think that, okay, I need this, like, we want to dispel that. So absolutely, you do not have to pay market rate. So rates have been up over 7% for a long time now.
Yep.
What percentage of deals would you say you're doing where your buyers are actually getting a rate over 7%?
I haven't closed a single deal this year over 7%. Everything we've closed this year has been well below that, whether it's a 3-2-1 buy down, whether it's a 2-1. I closed one. We're shooting this today. I closed one this morning. I think their long-term rate lock was 5.9. That was their long-term, like, we were building. And so we closed one last month. That was a 4.7 on a permanent. I've got somebody closing next week with a 4.99 buy down over 3 years. Like, nobody that I've closed this year on a new construction deal has paid 7%.
I took a buyer out last weekend, and we saw a builder had just wrapped up doing a promotion of 3.99%. It was a 3-2-1 buy down, so that wasn't the permanent rate. But I mean, how much are you saving per month just in that first year alone?
I mean, if on the basic math on that, it's somewhere probably in the neighborhood of, it's probably $200 to $400. It's probably $6,000 for the year, right?
I'd say more than that, because this price point was more in like the 700s.
Let me grab my little fancy calculator and we can talk about that. Because it's on a 3-2-1 buy down. That's why would you? I don't know. There's so much money out there, and especially like depending on when you're hearing and seeing this episode. So we're recording this at the end of May. So we've got one more month in Q2. And builders, like, we're kind of getting to the end of that point where builders want to move product. So we're seeing things get incentivized to that end, right? And then two, like, everybody's recognizing, hey, now's the time. So this is the side note, whether you're new construction or resale, if you want to be in before school starts, like June and first part of July is your window of opportunity. Right? Like, to get there with school starting the first week of August, if we're under contract by July 4th, you're probably getting in before school starts.
Yeah, because there's still some time that's needed in order for the lender to process the loan. It's different from lender to lender. Some can do it in as little as 23 days. Some need 45 days. I've heard that time needed to process is ticking up as we are seeing more people buying. They just have a greater volume of loans that they're trying to process, and that time's taking a little bit longer. So absolutely, if you're trying to move before school starts, now is really the time to start looking.
Yes. So let me go back to this. So I pulled my 3-2-1 calculator. Here's what I ran it on. I ran it on a 450 purchase price, because that's pretty close to, I mean, probably a little higher than average, maybe right at average, depending on market. For here, three 3-2-1 buy down at a 450 purchase price, which means we're getting, and I started at a 6.8. That's probably a little low, but that's pretty close to where we're starting in market. Monthly savings year 1 is like $750 a month. Year 2 is $517. Year 3 is $265. So I'm not saying the 3-2-1 is for everybody all the time, always. I just know it could be a potential thing that helps get you where you need to go.
Absolutely.
So we just got to, last thing on that, we just got to understand, like, you got to make sure you have to be able to qualify at the higher rate. So the lender has to be able to clear your debt to income at whatever market rate is. And then you have to be prepared that if you don't refinance, you will have that higher payment. So I can't stress that part enough. Like, this is not, there's a reason it's temporary. It's not permanent.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's one of the biggest things that makes this different from, let's say, like the ARM loan from 2008, which caused a bubble to burst because people weren't having to qualify for the higher rates. So now, like, yes, you do have to qualify and make sure you're comfortable paying whatever that final rate is going to be. But you do also have the option to refinance if the rates drop below whatever your final number is going to be. So,
correct. And the other biggest difference between this and the ARMs, excuse me, the ARMs was you had no idea what the rate was going to jump to. It was fully based on whatever they predicted in the market. This is a predictable, it will go up. So it will move up 1 full percentage point year over year. So at least there's some predictability in that. So it's not the same as what we were seeing where it's like, hey, it might jump 4%, it might jump 0.25%. You clearly know where you're going with that.
And it's year over year, but like with an end date in sight. So it's not like every single year. If it's a 3-2-1, it'll be over 3 years. If it's a 2-1, it's going to be over 2 years. So it can be very confusing when you're hearing these terms thrown around. But if you reach out to either Zach or I or a lender, anyone would be happy to explain this stuff to you.
Make it simple. Yeah. Okay, so let's stay on the money train. This one is interesting for me because I get varying opinions. It's the down payment question or the down payment myth, whether it's resale or it's new construction. I think there's still this idea that I have to spend 20%.
No, you do not, and it's very, very rare that as a first-time buyer you would be paying 20%.
Correct.
In fact, I have the stats on this. Zach, you want to talk about this for a minute while I pull this up?
Yeah, I mean, so like, let's be honest. I am, first and foremost, everybody plays this game differently. And so I can't speak to your financial risk. I can't speak to your financial goals. I can speak to mine. And for me and my wife, the way we play this game, because it's a game. I want control for as little of my money as possible. The big word for that is leverage. And so if we use same scenario, if we used our 450 purchase price that we were talking about earlier, and I took it at 20%, that's like 90 grand. Nobody that I know, at least, especially as a first time buyer, is sitting on $90,000 that they're going to put down on a house. Conventionally, like 5%. FHA, 3.5%. So same thing, 450 at, I'll give you even at 5. That's $22,000. So what is that? $68,000 that you're saving. And what you need to do is understand how that affects your payment. Again, like Megan said, we can have this conversation. We can set you up with a lender to have this conversation because I want to show you real numbers of when you put that much down, how much does it actually, like the math equation is like, how much does it save you monthly? And then the like next level math equation is how long would it take me to recoup that money? So if in this scenario, if I'm tying up an additional $68,000 and it's saving me, $400 to $600 a month, how many months would it take to break even?
And how long are you going to be staying in the home?
That's the other piece of that. How long does it take to break even? How long are you going to stay in the home? And on the third thing, if you're not putting that money there, what other vehicles could you use to grow your wealth? Because that's really what it comes down to. As you're playing the game, it's like wealth growth and acquisition. And again, my wife and I, we play from the standpoint of I want to control the asset for as little of my money as possible. And in my mind, I always think if I have money in the bank, I can pull from a savings account, pull from a checking account, put it together to make that payment. Does that make sense? So
I have here that the average first-time buyer is going to be putting down 6%. So some people are putting down 3.5, some people are putting down 10, wherever that ends up. Most first-time buyers are not putting down 20%. Even second-time buyers, the average is 13%. So I will say that if you have 20% to put down, that will drop off the need to do mortgage insurance, which on the average price that we're talking about, maybe 150-ish bucks a month.
But again, even in factoring that in, like you still, that just becomes part of the math equation, right? Like it's so straightforward of like, hey, this is the math equation. And I have this conversation too, because I have a couple of clients right now that we're moving up, right? Hey, we're selling their house or we've sold their house and they're buying on the new side and they're walking out with all of this equity and they're like, oh, what do we, I'm like, again, do what's comfortable for you, but don't think like, let's just look at the numbers to make it make sense.
Yeah. And having that extra money left over in your pocket at the end of the day, yes, you can invest that, but you also have it there for emergencies. You have it. There's a ton of new stuff you have to buy when you move into a home, new appliances, new furniture. So having more money left in your pocket is always a good thing.
I feel like every time we've moved, I feel like I blink and I've spent another 5 to 10, like, it's furniture, it's decor, it's just all these random things that add up. So it's not just the cost of the down payment, the cost of the closing cost, it's all those ancillary things on top of that. So, but like, again, why we're so big on new construction is I can't offset your down payment. I can set up your closing costs to help be covered by the builder, right? So it's less cash to close, again, leverage of less of your money in the deal to get you the thing that you want to have.
Absolutely. So what do we have for number 3? The myth number 3 is that you do not have to put your down payment down upfront. If you're building from scratch, and let's say it's taking you 6 to 9 months to build, and let's say you decide you're going to put 5% down. Well, you don't have to do that the day that you sign the contract. You do have to pay something that is called an earnest deposit. That is your skin in the game. That's saying that the builder is going to build this home for you with your selections. Or in the case of a completed inventory home, they're just not going to market that home to anybody else during the time it takes to close. And that's proving that you're serious. You're not just going to cancel and walk away and have no repercussions. But typically it's going to be a much smaller amount than your full down payment.
Correct. And that is always a potential negotiating piece with a builder. Every builder sets their own standard for what they charge in terms of an earnest money deposit. Some of them it's a percentage of price. Some of them it's a flat number, whatever. So like you are going to have money available to make those deposits. Most builders want that within 72 hours of a contract. But yeah, it is a negotiable number. It is a number that we can work on if we have a long runway, meaning we are building from the ground up, or we are like taking a home that's not necessarily fully completed yet. I have at times had builders say, hey, we can, like, part of our negotiation was we'll pay our full earnest money, but we're going to split it into payments. So we're going to pay $3,000 on the front end, and then we're going to make another $1,000 a month payment for the next 3 months, whatever it is. And we've kind of had builders, that's a case by case scenario. It is something you can ask for. Don't just assume that it's going to happen. But you can ask that question, and it could be a thing that you could do. The other deposits you will make on 90% of builders, if you're building, is the design deposit. So you will have, once you finalize your designs, again, I've seen builders as high as 50% on design selections. I've seen them as low as 10% on design selections. That is an additional deposit that you will make. All of those are credited back to you. We've kind of talked about that before. You'll see them. That is your money, assuming that you close on the home.
Yes.
Now, if you get into a scenario where you decide we cannot close on a home, or your loan falls through, or you decide you're not going to use your lending, and I'm going to leave it at that. You get into any of those scenarios, they're going to keep your earnest money. Like that is the cash consideration. You're going to lose that if you don't close. If you do close, you will see that credited on your account at closing. You don't have to have it all up front. Obviously, if you're buying inventory, you're going to need that money relatively quickly. also, this is the point when I please, I'm going to make a joke about it, but I'm serious. If you're stashing money in a mattress, or you're stashing money in a safe, or you're holding cash that you're like, if you have cash holdings that your grandma gave you and you've been holding on to birthday checks for 30 years and you're going to use that for your down payment, please put them in the bank. They have to be able to track the money. Like, you don't get to just show up with piles and piles of cash.
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's been done.
Oh, yeah. We're laughing because yeah, we've seen it happen.
Yep.
All right. We don't do down payments on upfront. So I've got to wait like 15 months for my house to be built. What do we think?
Not anymore. And even back when build times were taking 15 months, we're talking peak time that shall not be named. You still had options where there were homes that were already under construction that were available to buy. So typically, most builders are going to offer one of two items or both, or options. And that would be building from scratch, where you pick everything out yourself and you build from dirt. Option number two would be what's called an inventory or a spec home. These are homes that the builder has already selected the lot, the floor plan, the front elevation, the structural options, all the design. They've picked all that out already, which does simplify the process for you if you're not somebody who wants to have to pick all that out yourself. And usually those homes are not available to buy until they reach a certain stage of construction. It might be frame stage, drywall stage, it might be tile stage. And once those are released for sale, you can purchase them and have a faster move in. So for instance, we were just talking about if you're wanting to move in before the school year starts, then right now you would be looking at inventory homes that are already completed and that can close more quickly so that you can move this summer.
Yeah. And that would be one of those things too. Like, it's work back, take your timeline and work backwards, right? So if it's, hey, we're in a lease situation and our lease is up at this point, well, let's work backwards from what makes the most sense to get you into the home when you need to be in there and ready to go. Another negotiating tip, again, not guaranteeing that it happens at all. It's just case by case, because I've had it happen. We've negotiated for lease buyouts, right? As part of closing cost money. Obviously, you're going to see it. They're not just going to necessarily write you a check at the front end. It'll be more like a credit on the back end at closing. So plan accordingly. But if you're in a lease situation, you're saying, oh, hey, we're looking, but we've got 90 days, or we've got 4 months left, or, whatever on our lease. One of the things I've been telling my clients is, hey, I'm not saying we're going to get a buyout. I'm just saying have that number in mind. Like, you need to know what's it going to cost to get out of that, because we could potentially, especially on an inventory thing that a builder has been sitting on, right? Yeah. So this is where we start looking at, like, hey, perfect storm. We're at the end of a quarter. We're at the end of a phase. We have homes that have been sitting that can't move. They're highly incentivized and they need to close them quickly. And you're saying, hey, we would love to do this, but we've still got $2,500 to get out of our lease, and we've had builders be like, we'll cover that. We'll help cover that to make this deal work. So
because that's a good deal for them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a win all the way around if they can move a home that's been sitting, and then you get the home that you're wanting, right? It's
absolutely.
So no guarantees on anything. It's always case by case, but know that you could hold that in your back pocket if you need to. So
those are some advantages of a home that's already completed. Obviously, like Zach was just saying, if they've been sitting on it for a little while, they're going to be more likely to negotiate a better deal, or even just straight up offer better deals up front on homes that can close within 30, 45 days. You also, like we were just saying about the option deposit, if you don't have as much cash in hand up front, then an inventory home might be a good solution for you, because you're still going to have to put down the earnest deposit, but you're not going to have to do an option deposit on your selections because they're not your selections. So that can be an advantage too, to a quick move.
While we're talking, and we didn't really kind of have this on the list, but I think we need to talk about it. While we're talking about like lease buyouts, we got to talk about the other side of that. So what if I have a home to sell? What is the, what do we think? Is a builder willing to take a contingency? So contingency meaning, hey, I can't buy this house unless I sell my other house, right? What do we think? Do I have to be homeless, I guess, is the myth?
Well, I think it depends on the market.
Yep.
If it is a hot seller's market, then the builder's not as likely to agree to a contingency. They'll find someone else who doesn't have a home to sell, who isn't requiring that. I think things might be changing a little bit now as we're shifting more to an equalized market. But Zach, you might have more to say on that than I do, because I've always worked for builders and in a market where it was like, nope, no contingencies.
Here's what I would say. If we're building, I've seen a number of different things. I've seen it to where it's like, hey, if we're going through a full ground up build, we have a certain stage that we have to be able to remove that contingency. So like when your house hits frame stage, drywall stage, like whatever stage that builder sets, they want our contingency removed. So that means you either A, have to be able to qualify for both loans, or B, we have to be able to prove that your house is moving on the market. Occasionally, we have been able to get contingencies on quick close inventories. A lot of it is dependent on the builder, community, like all of those, like, are they moving product? What are they doing? And truthfully, there's a lot of it dependent on the relationship your realtor has with that builder. I'll give you an example.
Absolutely.
I have some clients right now. We're selling their house. They're buying brand new, and the builder gave us a contingency. That contingency happened mostly because of my relationship with that builder. Like that, that was not a normal thing. And so I'm just telling you that when you, again, it's self-serving. It is what it is. When you have people that have those relationships and that work with builders on the regular and can ask those questions, it doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen, but it helps. And so it's like, hey, any little bit of help that we can get to make those things happen for you, we want to do that. Now, full disclosure, trying to sell and buy new is like, it is hard. That's one of the hardest things for a realtor. That's one of the hardest things for you as a buyer and a seller, because it's like, hey, we've got to thread a really, really fine needle. It can be done, but it is a very, very hard thing to time exactly right.
To back that point up, that really, really just goes to show that who you work with matters, because from the other side of the table, when I was a builder rep, I mean, I can think of one time where the buyer was unable to sell their home. They were under contract for a completed spec. And rather than just completely canceling it and having them lose all of their deposits, we transferred them to a build.
That's important.
And during the build, I was sending weekly construction updates to the buyer and the realtor. The realtor was CC'd on all of these updates. And towards the very end of the process, and this was on me too, I should have been checking up more to make sure that the home was actually listed and that it was actually happening. I get an email from the realtor saying, hey, like, where are we at in the process? Because I need to start talking about getting their home listed soon. And I'm like, you haven't already? I've been updating you every single week. Like, what do you mean you are thinking of listing it soon? Like, we've got like a month to go before closing. What do you mean?
You better be listing it under market value.
Yes. So you not only want a realtor who is going to pick the right home price for your home, market it properly, but you want a builder or a realtor who is experienced with new construction, so they know the timelines. They know what the average days on market in your market is, so they know when to list your home to sell, so that you aren't having to pay extension fees or risk losing your earnest deposit or risk being homeless. And I always say it's better to have your home sold earlier and to have to move in with the in-laws or get a Airbnb
or a lease back or an RV or something.
That is a much better, difficult situation to be in than the situation where
you can't
your
qualify.
Home is ready to close and your old home has not sold yet. You don't have a buyer yet.
And there are options. We could talk about a bridge loan. I mean, there are options we can explore, but at the end of the day, it's not a fun spot. Let's be real. Selling and buying is one of the hardest things that you even if you're doing just one side, but then trying to stack both sides right on top of each other. It's a lot. And like I said, you are threading a very, very fine needle, and it can be done. It's just, we've got to have everybody pulling in the same direction. You, your lender, the builder, sales rep, your realtor, the builder, everybody, there's a litany of people that get involved in that. That touch the things that happen. So this is my side note plug that if, I've got a couple listings that, hey, if you need a move-in ready home, we can send them to you. I can plug that. So let's talk about, I think a lot of people think that new homes don't have character, and what they're saying is it all looks the same. It's cookie cutter and I can't make any changes.
Mm-hmm. And this is twofold. So I included this one on the list because a lot of builders now are moving to spec only. And a lot of times when you're doing spec only, there truly are no changes. Sometimes there are certain things that you are still allowed to change depending on the stage of construction that it's at. They might let you change flooring or tile or, some small things depending on how far along in construction it is. But to your point about, I guess to finish that point, there are still builders out there that are allowing you to build from scratch and allowing you to pick everything out. So don't think that you have no options for that. If you're somebody like me who's a little more picky and you want to be able to still pick everything out from scratch, you can do that. But as far as not being able to personalize anything, I mean, I have done so many projects on our new build, and
us too.
What's nice about that is that it is a blank canvas and you're not having to look at ugly, outdated, rundown stuff in the process of renovating. Because I've lived through a full home renovation and it's not a problem, right? It's just like you're making something your own. Like maybe your white walls are a little boring and you want to add a trim detail or paint or switch out light fixtures. Like it's stuff that you're taking a kind of boring basic light fixture and putting something in with more personality, something that matches your personality more. So I think it's a much easier process to go through of making your home your own when you just have a blank slate.
Yeah. And on the changes thing, I mean, you just got to know, I think I love that there are a ton of different builder options, because we could look at anything from full custom, like change everything, to, hey, we're designing in packages, to they're only selling specs, but they package. And so it's like, it's different home to home, to more of like hey, every single home has the exact same floors, countertops, cabinets, you name it. It's all the same. And there's the whole spectrum, right? On the changes side, on a build job, this is what I will tell you. You're gonna reach a point once we go through your design meeting. You're gonna have what's called builders. I've always called them red line meetings. And a red line basically means, hey, we're looking at all of your plans, all of your selections. Hey, we're about to order materials. Permits are pulled. We're getting ready to start. So if this is the point, like when you're getting married and somebody's like, speak now or forever hold your peace. This is the speak now, forever hold your peace kind of thing. And you'll see it lined out line by line by line in builder contracts. Hey, at this point, if you want to make changes, it is a $500 fee. It is a $700, like whatever. They want to make it difficult to make those changes. So you better be sure that you're picking what you want to pick, because any changes, they're going to charge you a change fee, a material fee, and an hourly. I mean, it's going to get expensive really quick. Yeah. On an inventory home, go ahead.
I was just going to say, typically there is a point of no return, and they will let you know when that is. We would always refer to it as like your final sign off. Like, okay, everything's been selected. Now let's review things one last time. And anything from this point on, there's either no changes or there's a fee to it. But it's not like it's going to come out and surprise you out of the blue. You're like, wait, I thought I still was able to change stuff. A good builder will tell you, like, yes, this is it. This is the time that we were referring to.
On something that's on speculation inventory, it depends on where it's at in the process. If it's already permitted and started, there is no structural changes going to happen to that, because it's going to be delayed on cities and permit. Like, you're not going to make any structural
pay for re-permitting. Like, no.
Yeah, you might be able to select some interior finish out details, flooring, cabinets, might. It all depends on when the builder has ordered that material and if they've crossed that bridge or not. On an inventory home, if it's completed, you're probably not making any changes. I'll give this with the exception of maybe flooring, maybe if it's been sitting for a while and it's like, hey, they've got a luxury vinyl plank in all the main spaces, and there's carpet in the bedroom, and I really don't want carpet. Again, it's a negotiating tool. Like, hey guys, would you rip the carpet up and match the flooring? Maybe.
I've even seen it on countertops. And again, that's a big maybe, but like, let's say there's a home and there was a little bit of a risk in the design and they picked a countertop that actually ended up being not everyone's cup of tea. Correct. And they're getting that consistent feedback from people. They're like, well, I like the home, but I hate the countertops. I like the home, I hate the countertops. If they hear that enough times and then you come along and you're like, well, I like the home, I don't like the countertops, would you be willing to change them? You might get lucky and they might say, yeah, let's go ahead and do that as part of the deal. But that's a rare thing. But
those are exceptions, not rules, I think is an important point. Like I said, everything is open for negotiation. But just know if you get that, you may be getting they're going to pull that money from somewhere else. It's not going to be like, hey, we're doing that and $20,000 in closing and blinds and fridge. And the ands are going to stop at some point. Right. Yep. So just mentally be prepared. Yes, you can ask those questions. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's like, we can change and even after you close, you can change almost anything about your home, but its location. So please, this sounds so simple, but please make sure you love the location. Make sure you love the community. Make sure you love if you've got kids, you're like, hey, we love this school district. We feel, valued, and we feel like this is a great place for our kids. I'm thinking about that just as it's the end of May where we're recording this, and I'm watching I'm watching clients and friends, they're posting graduation pictures, right? And their kids are getting their diplomas. And it's like, my wonder is, hey, how many of you lived in that house because you loved what the value it brought for your kids? You love the school district that it put your kids in, right? Again, paint can be changed, flooring can be changed, structures can be changed if you really get down to it, but you've got to love the place that you're building that home.
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's do this one. And I am willing, this is like a hill that I will die on, consistently, will preach this to my grave. This is a myth. The myth is, if I buy something new, it doesn't need to be inspected. I don't need a third party inspection.
Yes, that is a myth. Coming from the builder side, it's I have worked with really amazing builders, like building supervisors, where it's I have the confidence from my end that I'm like, yeah, this home I know it's been through city inspections and it's been through third-party quality inspections, and it's been through a lot of inspections already to this point. Yep. But
one more set of eyes isn't going to hurt.
As a realtor with clients, it's I don't know who the on-site builder is. I don't know anything about them. I can't just trust that they did everything correctly. So yeah.
One more. You're getting ready to spend at minimum, you're spending $300,000 at minimum here in DFW. Mm-hmm. Why would you not spend another $750 and protect that investment? I am so freaking serious about I don't want to joke about it. Yes, you're getting your home inspected. I've had clients before. They're like, the city came out and I talked to the builder and he seemed like a really nice guy. And I'm like, please, I'm begging, I'm not going to pay for your inspection. That's on you guys. I'm straight up, I will give you recommendations. I have several great inspectors here in DFW that I work with, that I love, that do a phenomenal job, but they're my recommendations. You do your own research, and it's on you to book that. I will highly encourage, I will remind, I will do all the things, but if you don't want to do it, at the end of the day, it's your call. Yeah. And I had a client one time and she's like, yeah, we met the builder and he seemed like a really nice guy. And I'm like, please, I don't want to beg you, but I'm begging you, get it inspected. Yeah. Just
I think it is important to mention too, that just because it is on an inspection report does not mean that the builder is going to address that item. Typically, they're only going to address items that are code violations, health and safety violations. Maybe it's not built to the builder specifications. Those are the kind of items that they're going to address. Or
if an item doesn't function the way it's designed to function. Yeah. Obviously, if the sink is designed to run water out and it's dripping, that is not functioning the way it's designed. That. what I see a lot of times is, inspectors are very, and here's what I will say, inspectors are very generalist, right? They are, they're looking at a home from a perfect case scenario, that, hey, this is the way it should function. And they are up to date on, what's the word? Like state code, but sometimes municipality code varies city to city or county to county. And so sometimes there'll be things that an inspector will call out and they'll say, hey, this is not this. And the builder will be like, oh, well, that's this code, but our city code is this. So we don't have to, and a client will be like, well, aren't they supposed to fix that? I'm like, no, because it functions the way it's supposed to function. Right.
And it complies with the municipal code.
And it complies with municipal code, which is what they're gonna follow by, right? Sometimes we get things called out on an inspection report that are minor, and that's totally okay. Like we had one last week, and so when you have a garage door from garage to inside the home, technically it's supposed to have automatic closing. What's the word I'm looking for, Megan? Hinges. The hinges are supposed to close it, like it's supposed to be a self-closing hinge. And the garage door in this home, like he came out, he checked it, and it didn't do it. And so the inspector puts it on the report as they're supposed to do. The builder comes back and he's like, oh yeah, the hinges are there. They just haven't been like tightened to function. So it's a good balancing act of like, hey, not just know that if it shows up on the report, there's probably not going to fix every single thing. But it is still important to do.
It's good to catch if there is a big thing.
Yeah. We're trying to catch big things. We're trying to catch leaks in roofs, HVAC's not connected properly, shingles not, on right, windows that have radon in them, leaks. Those are the big ones that we want to make sure we catch.
Yep.
So please get it inspected.
The last thing on our list, and hopefully this is one that is no longer a myth to you if you have watched this whole episode or if you've watched any of our other episodes, and that is the myth that you do not need a realtor to buy new construction.
Well, I'll give you that. It is. You don't need somebody. Like you can go do it. Like here's the thing. Megan and I give you enough information that you could 100% go do this without us. Yeah. I don't want you to. I would hope that you would want representation in that, but you don't. Like it is. You can definitely do it, but I would say the myth is it's not a good idea to do it without one. That's more the myth. And like we've talked about anytime before, any builder that says, "Hey, we'll give you more money for not having representation," you better run so far away so fast. Yeah, please.
They are not supposed to be doing that.
You want representation just from the standpoint of, hey, builders change and get moved to different communities. Sales reps get fired or leave, or like somebody doesn't know what's going on, or, hey, I have a question, or, hey, can you recommend an inspector, or, hey, the lender sent me this and I don't really understand what they're saying. Can you help me talk it through and ask the right questions? Can you help us negotiate? Can you keep us sane? Can you reassure us that it is supposed to look this way? It's like our house looks good in design. Please, like, there's so much more that I think goes into that.
Yeah. And I will say that when you reach out to a realtor matters, because there are a lot of builders who will not let you put a realtor on the contract unless the realtor was with you on the first visit, unless you mentioned that you had a realtor on the first visit. Most builders are looking at something called procuring clause. So is the realtor the reason that you're out there today? So that's why I warn people against just going out and looking on their own, because you might get to the point where you find a home that you love, but the builder's not going to let you put a realtor on that deal. And as much as I love helping people, I don't want to not get paid for the job that I do. So I'm not going to be your representative and not get paid at all.
I think that's important. And I even have people like, and I always tell people, like, ultimately we're here to help. If I can help you, I want to help you, but sometimes I can't. Like I've had people call me before and they're like, "Hey, we've been watching your videos. Here's our problem. We have a realtor." And I'm like, "I'm so sorry." Like, again, I want to help you. I really do. But I don't have you have a fiduciary relationship with them and you need to ask them. I'm here, we'll give advice. I will, make recommendations and tell you what the best I can. But at the end of the day, I can't, there reaches a point when I can't. So if you have questions about that, like I said, Megan and we would love to be helpful here in DFW. In any parts of the market in here at DFW, we'd love to help you with that as we continue to serve families that are buying new construction. We may not be a fit for you, and if we're not, that's okay. Take the information we gave you and go run with it and be successful. Like, I want you to buy a house, even if we're not part of it, right?
Yep.
We'd love to be part of it, but ultimately, we at our core, we believe in home ownership.
Yep.
And so that's why we do what we do. So, Megan, we have any more things? Are we wrapping up?
I think we're wrapping up. That's all I had.
Hey, that's all I've got. Like I said, I'm working on, and I hadn't fully told Megan this. I'm working on some guests, working on some inspectors, working on some other builder reps, working on some lenders. We want to continue this conversation again as a way to be a resource. That's really all it is.
And one last thing from me, I will say, if you guys have other questions or other myths that you have in mind, leave them down in the comments. Yes, leave them down in the comments, and we might address them in a future video.
Yeah, in the comments, like I said, you can find us both on YouTube. You can find us both on Instagram. Our emails are down there as well. So please, what we have at any way we can be helpful, we're here to help. So guys, depending on when you're watching this episode, I'm hoping to wish you a wonderful summer. Enjoy the beautiful Texas heat. Get in the pool sometime. If you're catching this after summer, hopefully we're not all dead from 110-degree weather for 100 straight days. So we'll talk to you guys in our next video, podcast, all those fun things. See you next time. Bye. Bye.